Good day. We're back at our topic of the week, our weekly topic of the week with Florencio Nocetti, who is going to introduce this week's topic. So, Florencio, now it's your. You
Hello,
take it from here.
Hello, Mookie. We continue to explore Mookie Tenenbaum's philosophy, his disillusionism, his nostalgic theory, and as he said in this sort of weekly exercise, trying to analyze the news as they come, events in the world from a philosophical, not from a journalistic point of view. And what we are seeing, we are now in February 2021, amidst the COVID pandemic, of course, like since we began with this channel. But we are seeing, again, a trend towards what one could say are very, very optimistic news. We see everywhere news about how the vaccines are going to be able to deal with the new variants of the virus. We see news that disregard mutations and the possibility that the virus will change and somehow bypass the effects of the vaccines. And we've seen this before. We went back to our archives, and along the entire pandemic, we've been reading how this Nobel Prize winner in Israel at the beginning claimed there would be no more than 10 deaths out of coronavirus in Israel. How the media in Spain back in May 2020 claimed the pandemic would be completely over by September that year, and on and on. So what we are going to try to understand is, why do these news spread, even if they don't coincide with the truth, even if in the end things are worse than what they seem to be. But why is this type of news everywhere, then and now?
Well, as you say, we are now in the midst of the news that have to deal with the variants and the vaccine. This is a very good example. We remember that when they started talking about mutations already in April about these viruses, this virus mutates very little. It almost never mutates. Don't worry about it. And then in the 3 days before Christmas, we were introduced to the British variant. The first variant that was much more aggressive, and now it happens to be more deadly, blah, blah. But then immediately the companies came out, Pfizer and Moderna told us, don't worry, this variant is covered by us. We tried it, we put in some blood and this and that, and it works. And then came out the South African variant. I'm just remind you, everybody, and they say, listen, this one, apparently the immune response is weaker against this variant. And then they started saying, well, it may be a little bit, but it basically it's covered. Don't worry. And we kept believing this news from the companies that have a vested interest. This is not, they themselves are the companies who want to sell you vaccines. Yes, so, Pfizer is supposed to make something like several tens of billions of dollars out of this vaccine. So their word, we took them at their word. And the question is why? I'll give you another example. They just say that in October they have already something. It works against the variants, but even that they will prepare a special booster shot and it will be ready in October. And the UK just announced today that they're going to buy this October vaccine. They already ordered the vaccines. And if you go into the expert, they will tell you that's impossible. Impossible for two reasons. One, it means that there will be no more variants. That's it. That will be the end of it. Yes, we'll wait until October. There will be no more variants. Since then, there are already two new variants, one in Mexico, in Jalisco, a new one, and one in Luxembourg. Even little countries have their own variants now. I have my variant. I'm not just, look, Luxembourg, they can say, we have a variant. So suddenly, that's number one. And then number two, they say, we still don't know why the South African variant evades the response, the immune response. And we don't know about it. And until we don't know about it, we cannot prepare a vaccine for that. And they give examples and dengue. I'm not going to go. This is not, of course, a video about about science, but just to give you, and everybody took those news and accepted them as they were the truth. And the people who took them, they called me and they were relieved. Ah, Mookie, there's not a problem with the variant. I heard that this is solved, that the vaccine works, and if it doesn't, I don't know how they do both. It works and they want to do a booster, but let's say, and the booster, and that's it, and in October, and it's all over. And the answer is they get relief from that. So maybe truth is overrated, Florencio. What do you say?
No, what I was going to ask you about this is precisely this: is if we are looking at the nostalgic consequences, as you say, if we are looking at what the news can do to alleviate suffering and to allow us to sleepwalk on through life, maybe truth, even if it were attainable, is not what we need. What we need is something close enough, similar enough to a truth that we can use to keep on sleepwalking, that we can use to alleviate suffering and just carry on. Maybe there's maybe we'd say a moral overrating of truth, an epistemological overrating, but in daily life, in the way we go about our business, maybe we don't need that high standard of truth.
Well, first of all, let me be clear. What we are talking about here, the issue we're talking about, is not is incoming truth, not outgoing truth. Okay, we're not talking about the value of telling the truth. This is unrelated to this issue. I'm talking about incoming truth. Yes, that the facts that you are going to embrace have to be believable. They have to be possible, probable. They cannot be something magical. And that will depend, of course, on each one of us. Yes, it will depend on people who watch these videos and are listening to disillusionist arguments. We don't have that many arguments that we will be able to embrace. If somebody tells me that it's going to be a booster in September, in October, well, it's close enough. It's believable. Yes. It's the company who made the 95% first vaccine, which I want to take a moment and say, listen, we are witnessing a fantastic technological response and scientific response to the corona threat. This, I mean, we have done, they. Yes, again.
We were here.
Here I have to be clear. Yes, as much as we didn't go to the moon, just there was a guy inside of a suit who was in the moon. Yes, we didn't do anything. But yes, at least the response of humanity, if you want to look at it, although there is no humanity, it was incredible. I mean, we have 5, 6, 7 vaccines that work more or less better or worse against this new threat. And I have to say that I was not that optimistic about having effective vaccines. Unfortunately, the variants are going now, are giving me the unfortunately, I was right by not betting on the vaccine. Now, people bet so much on the vaccine. They expected so much on the vaccine. We talked about it. It was like a miracle. And this is not a miracle. This is technology, this is science, and it is subject to mistakes, subject to change, etc. But it's fantastic. But there is two kinds of truth here, of the incoming truth that can be that you choose to believe or you believe. One is the one that does not affect you. If they tell you, like the Spanish, you remember the Spanish expert who said that in May, that in September, it's gone. There will be it will peter out, it will disappear. It didn't change anything to the guy who was stuck in his apartment in May, waiting, looking at his wife, or she looking at her husband again and again and again. Well, at least in September, we will be out of it. And that made it easier. That means it was a relief. And that means they suffered less. And it didn't change anything. Now, when they say that there will be a vaccine and the vaccine are the variants, again, you cannot do anything about the variant. What are you going to do? Are you going to look out for variants in the street? Hey, sir, do you have the British variant? He has a South African accent. We should be careful. Remember at the beginning of the whole pandemic, people look at Chinese people were very worried when you say
with
Chinese guy,
misgivings.
you cross the street. Yes, that's happening now to South Africans, Luxembourgish people, whom I don't think people can recognize so easily as a Chinese guy. But seriously, there is nothing you can do about it. The problem is that if you believe that the variants will win the war, this race against the vaccine, every time, many people will say, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I'm not going to get vaccinated because that will solve me a problem only for a month or two, or maybe. And again, I will have to continue to wear a mask, something that we knew from the beginning. All vaccines do not, they do not stop contagion. Even the AstraZeneca says they stop contagion in 2/3. Again, a company talking about itself. But even if they were right, we still are contagious. And there is still a group of people we cannot vaccinate. Children, for example, yes? So we will have to continue to wear all the masks, continue to have distance, and have a vaccination. And then they tell you that the vaccination will not work. I mean, it will, when you will get it, it will, by the time you will get it, it will not give all the defense it does. And it does give some defense. I want to be clear, it does. People will stop getting vaccinated, and that will be a disaster from many point of view.
So going back to the structure beneath these examples, what you are saying is that there are actionable truths and truths that are not actionable, that we cannot do anything when we get them. So if truth were not of the actionable kind, then something close enough, something believable would do, because there's still nothing we can do about it, or we need to do about it. And if it allows us to sleepwalk and to avoid suffering, then that's good enough. I'm thinking in our discussions and in the whole history of philosophy, there's the truth, the unescapable truth of our own death, of our own finitude. And this being a non-actionable truth, there's nothing we can do about it, we tend to disregard it. And life is usually bearable because we tend to disregard the truth, the fact that we are going to die. So there is a similar structure there. What we are experiencing now with this kind of news might be akin to what we usually do when we disregard death, choosing to believe alternative stories about our future. Is there a connection there? And what are the differences you see?
I think there is a connection, but the connection is not as strong as it looks like. Why? Because when death, you don't fear death. You dread death. You have terror. There is a terror in front of death. Why terror? Terror is because there's two things that the difference between fear and terror. In fear, there is first the possibility of something happen or not happen. Okay, you cannot fear something that is for sure. Yes, the things that are for sure 100% is going to rain. Well, it's probably going to rain. There is 90%. Even there is 100% chance it may not rain. When I walk, it may not rain. It may happen, and it's true, it does. So fear has to do with there is a choice. There is two possibilities, and the second thing is I fear something I understand. Okay, when I fear to get the virus, I fear to getting sick, and I fear being contagious to others. I fear being very sick and eventually death too. Yes, but all that part is fear because I understand. Now, death is not something we understand. We cannot understand the notion of not being, of unbeing. Oh yeah, every day we go to sleep. Probably we have a rehearsal, but that doesn't help us in any way, yes, because we keep waking up, and if we don't wake up, well, we never learn. We didn't learn the lesson. So there is nothing. So the terror and fear make this a very different approach. So what do I do when I have terror? Well, I live the whole time with my back to it. That's it. I don't think. And then I have illusions that help me. So comes from the religion and says, don't worry, when you die, your soul will go up, and then other people will say no, but your soul will go down, and you will become a prince or I don't know, something fantastic. Don't worry, reincarnation is very soon. It's coming up. Or they come, or the state comes to, don't worry, you are the state, you may die, but your effort will be shown in the greatness of our country and how things will be built, and your children will be singing the anthem like you did, and tradition will continue, and you were the bearer. I can continue with this. Or even the illusion of the family, your genes will be continued. No, I don't mean the genes, I mean the DNA, yes? Not the other ones. The DNA will be continuing. It will be every generation will carry your DNA, and that's it, and you are part of a chain. All those illusions help you with your death, with the terror of death. This is not good enough. This is something that changes all the time. Those are fears. Those are sufferings that keep exchanging each other. The box of tissues. Yes, one fear after the other. They come. One suffering and fear is one of the most common of them.
I see the difference you make, but I still want to ask you, and I think maybe the question applies both to the illusions we embrace to disregard death and finitude, and to this type of it's not fake news, it's unlikely news of a wishful nature that we embrace to disregard suffering. And what I want to ask is this: how is it that we embrace them? How does this selection process function? Because this doesn't seem to be a free choice. We don't seem to be aware when we embrace this type of news and disregard the other. But still, there is a logic to it, because we keep circulating and we keep believing in this kind of promising news. We don't take the bad ones. So it's not a free choice, but there's still some type of selection at work here, isn't it?
Yes, because there are two ways we can do that. The first one is the source. Yes, if my prime minister tells me we are solving the whole issue, it's all being solved, I have delegated my decision making into different people. Yes, I mean, when I bring in somebody to fix a table, I don't tell him how to do it. Yes, because he or she know exactly how to fix a table. I mean, so I delegate. It's part of the way where it comes from, the source where it comes the information. And there is a guys, with a tie. Some other countries the other way around. They have to look very shabby, and then you believe him because it looks like a professor, yes, who doesn't have a tie. Depending on the country, you will see that there are some countries they have to appear in tie. In Argentina, they have to be with a tie or a white gown. A white gown. That's it. That's it. Whatever he says, it's true. The second part of it has to alleviate. It has to have a feeling of relief. It has to give you relief, and you will choose immediately something that will give you relief. I'll give you an example. You have a stomach pain, yes? They tell you take a pill and you feel better. Probably it's not a good idea. Probably it's bad for you to take a pill and not wait to see how it develops, yes? What you have to do. But once you take the pill, you feel relief. That's it. It's gone. Once the suffering is gone, once that information about the variants are covered by the vaccine, and they are believable. This is very important. They have to be believable to be able to relieve me. And again, the more you know, the more information you have in your life, the more you grow in your knowledge, the harder it's to find believable non-truth. Yes, to call it somehow. Yes, those are. It could be truth. It's enough. It's close enough. But for me, it's going to be much harder. When they say that in October they're going to have a booster and we will have the vaccine will be solved, and England is buying those vaccines. Look, all these people say, listen, if Britain is buying them, it's because they know they have some. I went immediately into the material, into the real information, scientific information, and I found people who were bewildered by the idea. Yes, I mean it's just they were almost it was the rises for them, but nobody reads them. Why? Because the people who already have that information, Florencio, they are already released. They are now back to sleepwalking, and that is the best path not to suffer.
So there is a sort of natural selection at work here that leaves good news standing, and thus with the ones that threaten our sleepwalking.
Yes, absolutely. You see, the issue has to be to sleepwalk. When we sleepwalk, we don't suffer. The problem is that we are not aware that we are sleepwalking. Remember, this is. I don't want to call it unconscious, because it's not unconscious. It's not even conscious. It's a-conscious. Yes, there is no consciousness talking about. The moment I'm conscious, I'm sleepwalking. I'm not. The moment it's the same thing. The moment I am aware that news is not a relief, is not correct, is not true enough, is not good enough, at that moment it breaks. It falls down. It's gone.
Very interesting. So I think we'll go back to this in the future. Hopefully, we'll carry on in our next videos.
We have so many issues to go back to them. Every time you say that, but it's right.
Keep piling up.
Keep piling up.
See you.
If you enjoyed the video, please like it, comment and subscribe.